Okay, let's just dive right into this, and we're starting with a brilliantly simple metaphor from the philosopher Osho. Picture a fish, right? It's born in this vast ocean, lives its entire life totally surrounded by water, swimming through it, sustained by it every single day. Yet, the fish doesn't really know what the ocean is. It completely lacks the distance and perspective to actually see it. Well, Osho uses this premise to point out a truly profound truth. Truth isn't something way out there that we need to go and find. Actually, truth is already right here. It surrounds us completely, exactly like the ocean surrounds that fish. So the spiritual journey isn't really about discovery at all. It's simply about awareness. The very moment the fish realizes it's in the ocean, the moment it stops ignoring its immediate reality, boom, it's enlightened.
So that brings us to a pretty crucial point. If the ultimate reality, the truth, or even the concept of the divine is right here, literally touching us at every single moment, why on earth are we completely blind to it? What is it about human nature that makes us act like a fish that is completely oblivious to the water? I want you to keep this question in the back of your mind, because understanding the mental barriers that are keeping us in the dark is the absolute core of what we're unpacking today.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to decode Osho's deep and honestly fascinating interpretation of an ancient text known as the 7 Points of Mind Training. Originally taught by an 11th century mystic named Atisha, these points aren't just some abstract floating philosophy. No, they're designed as a literal step-by-step journey of psychological awakening. So today, we're going to map out exactly how Atisha and Osho suggest we can wake up from the illusions we didn't even know we were trapped in.
Section 1. Waking the Fish.
The first step in this framework, which covers the preliminary teachings of Atisha's method, is about establishing a completely new baseline for reality. It's the idea that the ultimate truth is already happening, right here and right now. It just requires a massive shift in our personal awareness. Osho contrasts our typical, everyday way of understanding the world with this new spiritual awareness. Science, for example, aligns with ordinary knowledge. It's objective, it needs an object to study, and Osho metaphorically calls this the mud. It's foundational, sure, but it's dense. On the flip side, true religion, and we don't mean in the organizational sense, but as a state of pure awareness, is a state of knowing. It doesn't need a physical thing to look at because it is the pure essence or the fragrance of the lotus flower that actually grows out of that mud. In this framework, to truly wake up, you have to transition from just collecting dense knowledge about objects to a state of pure objectless awareness.
Section 2. Atisha, the thrice great.
To really grasp this incredible mind training system, we've got to meet its architect, Atisha, an 11th century mystic who brought these teachings from India all the way to Tibet. History and tradition refer to him with a very specific and honestly rare title, Atisha the Thrice Great. Now, why thrice? Well, Osho explains that Atisha achieved his enlightenment by studying under 3 distinct, fully enlightened masters. Finding even one true master is considered incredibly rare, but Atisha managed to synthesize the peak wisdom of 3 different teachers into one cohesive, incredibly practical system.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact progression of Atisha's education, which directly mirrors the path he lays out for us. Step 1, he studied under Dharmakirti, who taught him the path of absolute emptiness, or no mind, basically dropping all thoughts completely. But interestingly, that wasn't enough. So step 2, he was sent to Dharmarakshita, who taught him compassion. Osho describes this as a feminine or passive compassion. It's kind of like a meditator sitting peacefully in a cave, radiating love, but ultimately waiting for you to come to them. Finally, we hit step 3. Atisha studied with Yogin Maitreya, who taught him the art of active love, literally taking the suffering of others and actively transforming it. Atisha's framework is an absolute game changer because it takes you from total inner emptiness all the way to active outward pouring love. But to even get to step 1, we have to deal with a massive roadblock.
Section 3. The Barrier of Mind.
If the ultimate reality is already right here, the next preliminary teaching is identifying exactly what's blocking our vision. According to this text, the one and only barrier between you and the truth is your own mind. Osho describes the mind not as some useful tool for finding truth, but as a continuous movie playing right over reality. It is literally a faculty for dreaming. Your mind is constantly spinning dreams of the past, projecting anxiety and dreams onto the future, and churning out these endless desires and ambitions. Osho uses a really powerful analogy here. He says, because of the mind, you live under the illusion of being a beggar, constantly holding out a bowl, begging for more power, more love, more success. But in reality, once the mind is dropped, You realize you've actually been an emperor the entire time. Everything you ever needed was already given. The mind is simply a thick wall. Osho even likens it to the Great Wall of China, made of illusions, keeping you feeling totally impoverished.
So how do we actually break through that wall? Well, Atisha introduces a concept called bodhicitta. It roughly translates to no mind or pure awareness. Now, I know it sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, a mind in the state of no mind, but it simply means a mind that is completely emptied of content. No thoughts, no dreams, no begging, just pure, crystal clear awareness. Cultivating bodhicitta is absolutely crucial. It's the main doorway in this spiritual system, acting as your literal exit route out of the mind's illusions.
Section 4. Phenomena as dreams.
Okay, but how do we practically achieve this state of bodhicitta? Atisha provides a remarkably direct, albeit pretty challenging, meditation practice. Let's just slow down for a second and really unpack this tremendously powerful sutra from Atisha. Think that all phenomena are like dreams. Osho emphasizes that the word phenomena here means absolutely everything you experience. When you walk down the street, consider the shops, the passing cars, the people. View it all as a dream. But Osho goes a step further, and this is where it gets really intense. He says you must treat even profound spiritual experiences as dreams. Think about that. If you see a great light flooding your being, or feel deep spiritual energies rising up inside you, those are still phenomena. Because you are observing them, they are objects, and therefore they firmly belong to the dream world.
And here, right here, is the genius logical trap designed by Atisha to completely shatter the ego. Once you persistently view all the objects around you, the scene, as a dream, a sudden flash of insight occurs. You realize something huge. If the object I am looking at is false, if it's just a dream, then how on earth can the subject, this I that is doing the looking, be real? It can't. If the scene is a dream, the seer must also be a dream. The ego is really just a byproduct of believing the outside world is solid and real. The very moment you treat the world as a dream, the ego simply loses its entire foundation and slips away.
Section 5. Unborn Awareness.
So once the ego drops, what is actually left? When the objects lose their objectivity, and the subject, the I, loses its subjectivity, you are left with what Osho calls transcendental consciousness. Imagine a pure, pristine mirror. It doesn't judge, it doesn't try to hold on to images, it doesn't separate itself from what it sees. It simply reflects exactly what is. There's no longer an I looking at a vow. There's just witnessing, pure, untainted reality.
Once you reach this pure mirror state, Atisha gives us the next sutra. Examine the nature of unborn awareness. When you look deeply into this crystal-clear state of bodhicitta, you discover something incredibly liberating. You realize this awareness was never born, and therefore it literally can never die. It is timeless. Osho points out that seeing this makes you realize just how ridiculous your past fears really were. Your fear of death, of old age, of losing things. All that misery and suffering was just a nightmare generated by the mind. Realizing your awareness is unborn frees you completely from that self-created hell.
But Atisha has one final, brilliant catch in his system. His last preliminary sutra is, "Let even the remedy itself go free on its own." You see, the mind is incredibly tricky. Right as it's about to finally disappear, it will try to sneak back in through the back door by making you desperately cling to the meditation method itself. You might actually become attached to the idea of treating everything as a dream. Atisha warns that you absolutely must drop the cure once the disease is gone. You cannot hold on to the method, or the mind just survives as spiritual pride. You have to let the whole shebang go to be truly free.
So, we've traveled from the oblivious fish in the ocean, through the illusions of the mind, past the dropping of the ego, all the way to unborn awareness. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you today. If this framework holds true, and the life you've been clinging to, stressing over, and endlessly desiring is largely a dream constructed by your mind, what incredible, unfiltered reality is waiting for you the moment you finally decide to wake up? Thank you so much for exploring Atisha's mind training with us. Take a moment to examine your own awareness today.